Welcome everyone, Dylan Gemelli here today with a brand new video for you. So today we're going to talk about how to effectively use my good friend Anavar. I say that sarcastically and many of you know why. But before we get into that, I have to reiterate to you, I am not a doctor, so anything I say in these videos is for your entertainment purposes only. What you do with this information is completely and utterly up to you, and I'm not advising nor condoning you to use any of the things that we discuss in any way, shape, or form. So, let's talk about good friend, good pal Anavar. Now, many of you know I'm not the biggest fan of Anavar in the world, and that's why I say that jokingly and sarcastically. But I do know, and I'm always fair in my assessments of things, that there are many people that like Anavar and many people that enjoy it and do have good results with it. So I leave bias out of this. I just like to have fun and joke around. But we do need to discuss how to properly use it because I do see it misused a lot. I'm also going to talk about how females should be using it as well, because Anavar, let's face it, is basically the most popular female steroid out there. And so I want to make sure that I touch on that because I do always have females ask me, why don't I, explain this for them? And you're absolutely right. And so I want to touch on that. So for men, there is no need to exceed 60 milligrams of Anavar. If you're not getting results on 60 milligrams of Anavar, then chances are high that you probably don't have quality Anavar. Not impossible. There's always exceptions to the rule. But if you have high quality Anavar, in most cases, 60 milligrams is going to be plenty. Oftentimes 40 milligrams does the trick. Now, we do have to keep in mind and remember, and please don't ask me, I want to just say this off the bat, no comments, where do I buy Anavar? Guys, use your head, okay? I get these comments in the thing, where do I buy this? Don't ask that. Let's just use common sense here. If you don't have enough common sense to not ask that, you shouldn't be using steroids to begin with, but that's an entirely different topic. Quality is an issue, and I'll tell you why. Anavar is a lot more expensive when you're, when they're making it, purchasing raws, whatever. Okay? So oftentimes it's faked. A lot of times you'll get Winstrol instead of Anavar, or who knows what. Now, if you've got Winstrol instead of Anavar, you're obviously going to see results. But oftentimes there's just fillers put in there, whatever the case may be. So if you're not getting the results, I would question your source. Then obviously you take a look at your diet, your training, things of that nature, what else you're taking with it, everything else. But I see people saying, I'm going to run 100 milligrams of Anavar. That is completely unnecessary. Let me explain something to you here. I know, and this is true, Anavar is more mild, but it's more mild in comparison to what? Anadrol, D-ball, Winstrol. Yes, these are going to carry more side effects as orals, but Anavar is still a toxic oral steroid. It still has side effects. Maybe not as profound, but trust me when I tell you, it's still suppressive. It will still hurt your liver. It will still hurt your blood pressure. It will still hurt your cholesterol. The list goes on. It's still a steroid. It's still a toxic steroid. So you have to be aware of that. Don't be under the impression that just because Anavar is considered more mild that you don't need a PCT, you don't need to protect yourself from toxicity, you can run extreme amounts of it. Trust me, you're still going to have issues. Now, I've done Anavar videos that cover the base facts of Anavar and what to expect, etc. This is more or less just talking about how to run it. There's no need to go over 6 weeks of Anavar, male or female. I don't care if it's more mild. Some people like to run it 8 to 10 weeks. You can do that. Listen, I am not your dad. I am not the end all be all. You can do whatever you want. People will write me and say, well, can I do this? And my answer is, you can really do whatever you want. The question is, should you, not can you. You don't need my permission. You don't need anybody else's permission. You give your own permission. But should you? And the answer is no. You should not exceed 6 weeks of Anavar. There's just no need. There comes a point in time where you actually don't start to see any more gains, and all you get are side effects and problems. All right? So it's not always this more is always better, longer is always better. No, in fact, oftentimes more will lead to more problems, and longer is often worse. Okay? Now then I will get this question. Can you run an Anavar only cycle? Of course you can. Just like I said, you can do whatever you want. Do I, Dylan Gemelli, recommend oral only cycles? No, I do not. I do not at all. I'm going to do an oral only video so I can touch on that. But just understand, straightforward, no. And if you ask me, I'm not going to tell you to do it, nor advise you to do it, because it's something I do not believe in. So I get these guys that will say, well, I'm going to do it anyway. Well, okay, that's fine. It's your choice. We all have choices in life. I also have the choice to not advise something I don't believe in. So it's not something I'm going to advise unless you're a female. Then, of course, it's completely fine. And as much as I liked SARMs stacked with Anavar, SARMs are not a substitute for testosterone. All right, nor is a testosterone booster, even though there's a lot of those that I like as well. Arimistane is not a substitute. All of these things are not a substitute for testosterone, so I want to curb that question before it even gets brought to me. You can kickstart a cycle with this, finish off a cycle with it. However you want to run Anavar, you can. Now, it's best suited as a finisher because it polishes your cycle, it's muscle hardening, things of that nature. But you can kickstart with it. It's completely fine. There's no rule that says you can't do that, okay? But more people will look towards a D-ball, Anadrol, T-ball to kickstart. You can kickstart with Winstrol, Anavar, whatever you want. That's completely fine. There's, like I said, there's no rule book that says, oh, Anavar is only used at the end of a cycle. Now let's shift to women. Oh, but first, before I shift to women, Anavar could possibly come in a liquid form. It could come in an injectable form. The dosage does not differ. Okay, the results are not going to be different. You're not going to get better results on an injectable form as opposed to an oral form. Now, obviously, there'll be more toxicity if you're just taking it orally, but there'll still be toxicity if you're taking a liquid form or if you're taking an injectable form. And the injectable form and the liquid form are pretty rare. You're not going to find them very often, but I know I'll get that question too, so I want to cover that. Now, for women, anywhere from 5 to 20 milligrams is where I recommend. Normally, my advice is to stay about 10 milligrams and then eventually bump to 20 if you want. But 10 milligrams is tolerated extremely well for most, and results are seen pretty well for most at 10 milligrams. I would not go over 20 milligrams as a female, and I really don't even care to see you go that high. Once again, your decision. You make it based on your reaction over time, your results you're getting, etc. But I don't see the need nor the purpose to go any higher than 10 milligrams, and obviously don't exceed 6 weeks. Now, females don't need post-cycle therapy with it, but it's never a bad idea as a female to maybe run a test booster at the end of it for 4 weeks. It's not going to hurt you, and it definitely will help you. So that's the only thing that you would need. No Clomid, no Novadex, no nothing like that. Not necessary as a female. Men, you definitely need a PCT anytime Anavar is used. You should be using Anavar with tests where you don't know you need, where you obviously should know you need a PCT anyway. But if you are one of those people that wants to run an oral only cycle, you still need a full post-cycle therapy afterwards. Okay? So that's Anavar, how to run it effectively. If you have any questions or comments, let me know. It's pretty basic, cut and dry, but I want to make sure that I hit every single angle there and covered all the bases because I know there's certain questions that'll pop up, and they're good questions. So I want to make sure that I cover everything. So that being said, www.isarms.com/forums. I'm also in the evolutionary forum as well as the elite fitness forum, and you can email me, Dylan@isarms.com, with all your questions and comments. And please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. That being said, stay tuned for plenty more to come. Dylan Gemelli, signing off.